Let's see. Yeah, I think we're good to go. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this moment. Whether you're watching this recording or live, does not matter. Time and space are irrelevant. It does not matter where your feet are. It matters where your heart is. And in this moment, we are connected. So thank you. I love you. Should we begin? Let's do it. Ready? Welcome. I'm Halcyon, and this is the Hug Nation broadcast. Today, I want to talk about ask versus guess culture. Have you heard of this? Ask versus guess. This is fairly new to me and blew my mind. And it's related to a lot of issues that I worked with for a long time, specifically about being independent and asking for help and receiving help. What really kicked it into my thoughts this week was I was at an event last weekend where I brought the Hugmobile, my 24-foot pink motorhome, and I had some pink pop-ups and I had all sorts of some gear. And as I was dragging this heavy pop-up, you know what a pop-up is? Like a shade structure, a metal shade structure that kind of folds easily. So it's pretty heavy, probably, I don't know, 50 pounds maybe? Okay, it's heavy for me. And as I was like dragging it to the Hugmobile, a friend of mine, Craig, this quite strong and eager to help man. I see him working at events all over the place, and he's helped Pink Heart with some art projects. He's just like a guy who has lots of skills and abilities and is, I think, wired, and he understands that his purpose is to be of service and help people. And I know that about him. And as I'm dragging this thing, he says, "Do you need some help?" And I said, "No, I'm good." And then he said, "Are you sure?" And I kind of put the pop-up on its side and go, "No," and it fell. I went clang, 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 and I was like, yes, I would like some help. And that was the second time actually that he asked me for help, and both times he had to ask me twice. "Need some help?" And I said no, and then he said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Okay." And so I was really struck by how much difficulty I was having in receiving help. And he said something that really kind of like helped me reframe things and make it see differently. He said, "Could I make this any easier for you?" Because I stopped him. I need to talk this through with you, why it was so difficult. Because I know that you were legitimately and sincerely offering help. And yet I said no until you asked twice. And he said, "Could I make this any easier for you?" And I had this like aha moment. Because if someone asks me, "Do you need help?" I don't need help. I don't need anything. I could do this myself, and I could. Plenty of the things, I really pushed my body in the breakdown of our equipment and was very stressed and a very difficult day, in a huge part because I didn't ask for help, and then didn't even accept help when it was offered. And there's something that, do I need help? No, I don't need it. But if I can change it to the way that Craig suggested it, could I make this any easier? Could this be any easier? The answer is, oh, it definitely could be easier. Someone could help me carry it. A car could help drive it. And so I'm really trying to work on massaging my brain to get out the knots that are in that phrasing of needing help. And when I hear it, trying to do it, an instant recalculation, a translation. Do you need help? No, don't hear it that way. Hear it, could this be any easier? Oh, could it be easier? Yes, it could be easier. My coach, one of her big things is, could life be easier or more fun? And And so this situation of recognizing how difficult I have in receiving help has made me start looking at a lot of things in my life and a lot of relationships in my life and a lot of people in my life and seeing how different people are. How, like, my brother and I, we like commiserate because neither of us asks for help. And yet there are many people we know who have no trouble asking for help. And I need to tell these stories without any names, but, you can start to see how some people have no problem asking for help. So I could be sitting on the couch. You know what? I will ask forgiveness later. So my partner and I are different in the how we deal with and what we expect from help. She has no problem if she's cooking something to say, "Can you get me some plates?" Even if I'm in another room. Now, to me, this is crazy. I would never ask for someone to get some plates. I would never ask for help if I was cooking. I wouldn't do it. I would either do it myself or it wouldn't get done. I wouldn't ask for help. I wouldn't impose upon anybody. I wouldn't put them out, even though it might not, and even though they might want to help. And so a lot of the struggle around these different ways of seeing the world has been illuminated for me through the concept of the ask versus guess. So asking versus guessing. Guessing is where you try to anticipate what people want and then give them that. You give a lot of thought and brain power into when they mentioned this earlier, is that what they meant? I want to make sure, and you want to make sure you never make somebody say no. So you're always trying to figure out what the situation requires, what that person really needs, instead of waiting till they say, "It's getting late, you should go now," you start to they just mentioned that they have an early day tomorrow, so we should probably go now. Does that make sense? Do you know people like that? Are you like one or the other? Where someone's over at your house and you're like, "Well, I got a real busy day tomorrow." And they're like, "Oh, cool. You know what I do on busy days is I take some vitamin B in the morning, and then, I make sure that I meditate, and, that's how it gets me through busy days." And you're like, "What are you talking about? I'm trying to tell you that it's time to go." But if you're an ask person, you ask someone to go. You say, "Hey, would you mind leaving now? Because I need to get to sleep because I have a busy day tomorrow." And an ask person is totally comfortable with a yes and a no answer. "Hey, can I get a ride to the airport?" The answer, yes or no, totally fine. Whereas a guess person would be mortified, like, how dare you just expect me to be available to drive you to the airport? It's like, but if you can get inside the head of the other person, you're like, no, they're not expecting you to drive them to the airport. They're expecting that you will be honest. But if you are only in the headspace of the culture that you're in, if you're an ask person, then a guess person seems like they're not communicating, speaking another language. And if you're a guess person, an ask person seems incredibly rude. So if you are in a situation where somebody that you are close with either feels like they're being rude all the time or they are being very elusive and unclear with their communication, maybe you guys are in an ask-guess situation. And just do a search on ask versus guess or asking versus guessing culture. And it might blow your mind. It's related to consent culture, which is something that I did not grow up with and is something that I am learning to understand and appreciate. So with that, I hope it's understood that I'm not an expert or well trained in consent and consent culture. But what I see to be the possible holy grail of communication is if you have a consent culture, which is to say an ask culture, you trust that the other person will say yes or no. And they will not try to say the thing that they think you want them to say. They will not try to guess what the right answer is. They won't try to guess. They will say their truth. And if you can get to a place where you trust somebody to say yes or no without judgment, in fact, they might respect you for asking it, you might ask for what you really want instead of playing this game of guessing and anticipating and hoping. I think about all the times in junior high when I was over at a girl's house that I liked, and we'd be sitting on their bed, looking at photo albums or checking out the stickers on their ceiling, and I'm trying to guess if do they want me to kiss them? And I'm afraid of what if I do kiss them? That's not what they want. I'm trying to guess. But what if we had been raised with consent culture where I simply asked, I would really love to kiss you right now. Would that be okay? And she would go, oh, thank you for being so clear with what you want, but actually, no, I'm not comfortable with that right now. Let's keep looking at this yearbook. Or, yes, I would love a kiss. And if we could have that trust that we could be honest with one another, who knows what could happen? Then I might speak something that I would be so scared to be judged about. Hey, would you mind if I put on your frilly underpants and dressed up in your clothes? And, I've never asked a woman that. What if I was comfortable enough to say that? And she might say, sure. And, or not really, that's kind of, this is kind of, that kind of crosses my line, but thank you for being so honest with me. So somehow this is all related. Asking for help, receiving help, being clear about what you want and what you need. As I look to my future, for many years, as a guessing person, I found myself really troubled by askers, people who would force me to maybe say, for me to feel awkward as I had to say, actually, no, I'm not comfortable with that. But why is that that's not their problem. The more I think about this, the more I'm like, I've been wrong. Asking culture is better. Consent culture is better. There, I said it. All my fellow guessers are probably going to lynch me or make meme stickers calling me bad names. But I think the important thing to remember is that it's very possible that the people you're speaking to and building lives together with, whether they're your children or your parents or your partners or your coworkers, they might be speaking a different language. They might have a very different expectation. They might have a judgment about the very nature of how you ask or say no or say yes. And getting that out in the open and being clear about maybe what your leanings are and what your culture is can help you to have a much easier time building really beautiful relationships with the people around you. So I'm in the process. I am learning. I am slowly learning. And it is a process. So please forgive me. And I will do the same. Thank you for letting me share my journey. Thanks for being a part of it. I love you.